Today we're going to be teaching you how to make a vermicompost. However, this is our first time doing it, so we're going to learn some things along the way. For those that don't know, vermicomposting is the process where worms eat the food scraps in order to create the end product, which is compost. The great thing about vermicomposting is you don't need a lot of space in order to do it, because it's just one bin of worms. Even people like me who live in small apartments and want to compost food scraps can do so. It's also very easy to maintain once you get it started, so let's get going. Hi, I'm Norma Behrend-Martinez.
And I'm John Kappler.
And today we're going to try to set up our vermicompost for our apartment. And what you're gonna need are probably like 2 storage bins and some shredded paper that I got from just my articles I have to read for class. And then also some soil. You don't need it, but you can just start off with the shredded paper, but having some soil can help. And of course you can have these little red worms that we're going to use to start our vermicompost, our worm farm. And of course some water to moisten it up.
One of our first steps will be to put holes on the covering for the compost enclosure. And we're doing this so that the worms have air to breathe and they don't die. You can use anything sharp, I guess, like this knife that we got from the kitchen. It's not the easiest, but it's the best we've got since we don't have an electric drill. But it doesn't have to look good, it just has to work to get air into the worms and to the composting system. Here's the finished top. We have, it looks like 12 holes.
Next, you want to take the storage bin and do the same, but to the bottom. This will allow water to drain, so it doesn't get all nasty and moldy. And you don't have to do as many holes as you did for the top. This is just to ensure that water can get through. Next, you want to start with the mesh that we have, and this will just help so the worms don't fall into the holes that we just created on the bottom. Afterwards, we can start working on the dirt and the paper. So you put just a little bit of paper and make sure that it's kind of covering the entire box. Not too much though. I think I put a little bit too much. Next, you want to use the water and squirt it until it's nice and moist for the worms. We are also going to put some soil just so our little friends can have a nice space. So again, you want to moisten it since they like that environment. Next, you want to add the little worms. We ordered this in the mail, so we're a bit more concerned that they might not have survived the trip, but we shall see. And it looks like they're good.
Alive. All right.
Here are the worms.
Now it's time to put them in to the composting bin. All right, here we go. Everybody is in. Oh, except for one.
Here we go, guy.
Now there's a lot to clean up.
Next, you want to make sure that they are buried. They like a little cover, which is why I have some extra paper to go on top. Now that's finished, we're going to get the top that we used to put holes in. Where did it go? Now that that's done, we're going to get the cover and put it on top, the one that we put the holes in. And then we have another bin. And this is just going to be the bottom and act as something to catch the water that comes out of that bin. Now that we have our compost done, we are going to put it in a location and leave them for about 24 hours so that they can acclimate to their new environment. And you don't want to feed them daily. You don't want to just put your compost in there whenever, so you want to have a separate container to put your compost in, and then about once a week you put in that compost into the vermicompost, since they don't like to be disturbed. So you want to rotate which side of the bin you put your food scraps each couple weeks. This will attract the worms to go into on one side of the bin. And make sure to bury your food scraps and empty the bin that collects the wastewater. And also, white mold is normal, don't freak out, but if you have green mold, you may have too much moisture. The do's and don'ts are pretty complicated, more complicated than I imagined, so make sure you don't have any meat or dairy. That will make it really stinky. Citrus can hurt the worms, and so can tomatoes and potatoes, and salty, spicy, or oily foods are also not the best. But do put in your eggshells, coffee grounds, banana peels, and veggie and fruit scraps. So we maybe should have given them a little bit of food earlier on, because as you can see, they're trying to escape. But now that they have their little food, which I'm going to bury, they should be content. If they keep on trying to climb up this, because we didn't really have anything to cut the wiring, I may have to go find something to cut those wirings so they can't just climb up it. So we've been doing our compost for about a month now, and a couple things that we noticed, because we're newbies too, we're trying this out too, is first of all, a tip: we probably should have gotten a bigger bin. It's a bit hard to rotate the different sides just because of the size of the bin, and so over the summer we'll probably upgrade to a bigger bin. We just were concerned about the space that we were living in, given that we have a puppy and we don't want him to get into the compost. But that's something that we're gonna fix. That's something that's doable. Another issue is that I found that with breaking down avocado skins, they are taking way longer than I expected them to. So that's a thing that if you're starting the compost and you don't have a lot of space, I wouldn't compost. Otherwise, it's healthy. It's a bit smelly, but it's not reeking because we're not putting in those meats, those dairies, or the potatoes or tomatoes or any spicy or oily food. We're just putting on our banana peels, our food scraps. You can see maybe like some pepper, like seeds right over here. And you can see some white mold on the avocado skin, which is totally fine and healthy. I was really scared when I saw that, and I totally was like, I have to make sure this is okay, and it is. A little white mold isn't bad. And so, yeah, it's totally a process. It's a fun one, but it's one where you're always trying to fix and just make sure that it's going.